We are here today to mourn the loss of a wonderful person and to share in the grief that we all feel. Because words pale in the shadow of grief, whatever we say today can only soothe the smallest fraction of what we carry in our hearts. The best that we can do is to share and remember Uncle Larry as he lived, and perhaps in that sharing to find the strength to bear our sorrow and the courage to wait for that dulling of grief that only time and grace can bring. Each of us will forever remember this past Monday. We will remember the moment the news came, where we were, and what we were doing. Some will carry the memory of a hot July sun or a barbecue among friends, and all will carry the memory of a kind face and a reassuring voice that is lost forever. We have lost a person who is surely among that altruistic group so eloquently described by Lincoln as the better angels of our nature. We loved Larry Atkinson as a husband, as a father, as a brother, as an uncle, and as a friend. Love is not an easy feeling to put into words, nor is devotion or kindness or loyalty, but he was all of these. These were the traits upon which he was raised by a loving father and by a mother who was a true saint upon this earth. And they are the traits that he, my Uncle Richard, and my dad all raised us to live by. I say that Uncle Larry raised us along with our parents because it's true. We are an exceptionally close family, and each of us blessed to be the grandchildren of Dot and Boyd Atkinson consider our uncles as our fathers. This is especially true for Uncle Larry, who treated the children of his beloved brothers as his very own, even before he had children of his own. Throughout my entire life, Uncle Larry was a constant source of love, support, and advice. And he was a shining example of what you can accomplish in this life if you will, but work hard, love unconditionally, and treat the people around you with kindness and consideration. He was so thoughtful. I am 36 years old, and I do not remember one birthday in my entire life where Uncle Larry did not only call to wish me happy birthday, but also sent me a card. I don't know about the other men in this room, but when I send a birthday card to someone, it typically involves asking Micaiah to go up to CVS and buying a card and then having her sign my name to it. But when Uncle Larry sent one, it was always personal. He would simply write, "Happy birthday, Heath. I love you, Uncle Larry." That was another lesson that he taught me, that a true man should never be embarrassed to tell his family that he loves them. And I'm not embarrassed to stand before you all today and tell you that I loved my Uncle Larry. He was a wonderful man and the perfect example of how you should treat other people in your life. And I will surely miss him just as I know each of you will. He was such an inspiration to us professionally. Uncle Larry was the quintessential self-made man. He decided at an early age that despite his parents not being able to afford to send him to college, he was going to go and make a better life for himself. And he willed that desire into effect. I think about how easy Jonathan and Brian and Philip and Josh and I had it when we were deciding where to go to college. And mostly how we were blessed with not having to think very much about how it was going to be paid for. Uncle Larry didn't have that luxury. Instead, he literally sold his prized possession, a 1969 Oldsmobile 442, to have the money to pay for his first year of college. And listening to his stories of scraping by in a one-room apartment up in Columbia with a hot plate and a loaf of bologna were thankfully much different than the memories I have from attending USC. And we owe him for that. We forget that were it not for his inspiration to go and to make the hard sacrifices back in 1969, none of us may have had the inspiration to go and better ourselves in the next generation. That is his legacy. And it is one that I know he is proud of, and it's one that I am ashamed to say I never thanked him for. His hard work paid off in the years to come, and it culminated when he and my dad, who had worked tirelessly for years for Mr. Eskridge and Mr. Long, bought them out and hung up that first Atkinson Construction Company sign. I know how proud he was of the company, and how especially proud he was when Jonathan made the sacrifice to come home and go to work with he and Dad. And together, the three of them made it work with hard work and with, I believe, some help from above. Uncle Larry and I were both history buffs, and I remember a specific conversation we had a couple of years after they opened the business, and they were doing well in spite of the economy and all of the obstacles that were in front of them. I had been thinking about how proud Mama Dot must be to still be able to look out for him. And I sent Uncle Larry a quote that I came across from Thomas Jefferson to Washington, written just after the Revolution had begun. And our young nation was, like their company, somehow holding its own despite overwhelming obstacles. For his part, Jefferson believed there must be more at play than a simple effort or luck. He wrote, "We know the race is not to the swift, nor is the battle to the strong. Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm?" Uncle Larry wrote me back to say how much that quote touched him, because he knew what red-headed angel I was referring to. And he was thankful for her help. And that touched me. It still does. Nothing in his life was more important than his family, and we all owe him an incredible debt. But now we are left to go without him and his guidance. The proverb says that good men die, but death cannot kill their names. And we can only do now what we believe Larry Atkinson would have us do, what he taught us to do: to wrap our arms around one another, to love unconditionally, to work hard, and to continue on. It will not be easy to do, but we owe it to his memory to try. Lincoln, who himself knew the anguish of having lost 2 children to an early death, once wrote to a young girl who had lost her father in the Civil War. And I think his words are worth sharing here. He wrote, "In this sad world of ours, sorrow comes to all. And to the young, it comes with bitterest agony because it takes them unaware. Perfect relief is not possible except with time. You cannot now realize that you will ever feel better, and yet it is a mistake. You are sure to be happy again. To know this, which is certainly true, will make you some less miserable now. I have had experience enough to know what I say, and you need only to believe it to feel better at once. The memory of your dear father, instead of an agony, will yet be a sad, sweet feeling in your heart of a purer and holier sort than you have ever known before." Our family could use that advice today. We have been knocked down, and we are hurting, and we're unsure what to do. But we won't stay that way because we have faith. The Apostle James wrote that if any one of us lacks wisdom, we should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. I am apprehensive to close, but it's time. In all that lies before us, we pray for that wisdom and grace that God promises. and we ask for your help. And I ask each of you here today to especially wrap your arms around Aunt Dawn, Jonathan, Brian, Uncle Richard, and my dad as our family moves forward from this day and fulfills the debt that we owe our beloved Larry in his absence. Our family story has always been one of faith, love, work, and dedication to one another, and nothing ends here. Our work simply continues. Our story goes on, and a new angel now rides in the whirlwind and directs this story.
Very well said. I love